YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after a very strange Thursday night football game. It's a bit of a shit show, if I'm being honest, and a surprising one because it was between the Seahawks and the Rams. The Rams pull it off. I'm here to give you my takeaways, maybe what to look for going forward for these teams, what this game means for these teams. Might have some serious injuries at quarterback, mainly for Russell Wilson, but we'll talk about it like we do every single Friday with the Thursday games. The Sunday slate of games I recap every Monday. Also got all kinds of power ranking, score predictions for every game, all kinds of content. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Check out that Twitter. A lot going on there. You're missing out if you're not following it. Link down below. Check it out. But a 26-17 final. Gino Smith actually came in and scored 10 points. He was pretty impressive, actually. Not too many positives from the Seahawks, but he was actually, I thought he looked pretty solid. Besides the pick that ended the game, but something happened with Lockett there where he got tangled up. I'm not really sure. It looked like contact was about to happen, but it didn't really look like it actually happened. So maybe he tried to sell the pass interference and led to the interception. But yeah, before going over what I disliked about each team from this game, how about that double punt? I thought I knew every rule in the NFL. I did not know you could punt the ball twice. Mike Pereira didn't seem to know that, and then as soon as they made the ruling, he was like, "Oh, that's right. It's a new rule." So apparently you could punt the ball twice. So that surprised me. But what surprised me the most is that that was actually allowed because it looked like he passed the line of scrimmage. I watched it over and over again, and where he started the second punt, I think his heel was behind where he started. But where he followed through, he was passed, and then when he actually punted the ball, he was passed. So I would think that he's beyond the line of scrimmage by that. He was well past, too, by the time he kicked it. So that was odd. There was no review. I know it's confusing because we've never seen that, so it's definitely confusing for the refs. But it was odd how they handled that. McVay looked like he was about to challenge it. He looked like he was confused, didn't challenge it. So that was one of the more strange things I've ever seen in football, to be honest. But worked out for the Seahawks, even though I don't really agree with it. But, yeah, definitely wild. To start this game, the play calling on both sides was bad. It never really got better for the Seahawks. It wasn't as bad in the second half as it was in the first. It really was. I guess it really wasn't bad in the second half, the play calling that is for Seattle. But it never really picked up for me to put it in the positive category, even kind of in the middle there. For the Rams, it definitely picked up in the second half. The first half was pretty bad. Excuse me. The second the game started, it was just rough for both teams. The Rams, it looked like early they can throw on Seattle. Stafford had all day in the pocket on second down and long. They get the first down. Then you can immediately go to running twice, and it's kind of going back and forth with these teams. You see the Seahawks go for it on 4th and 2. They try to run the ball. It was 4th and in 2.5. Try to run the ball. What I gathered from that was because there's no way these coaches don't trust their quarterbacks to throw the ball. Maybe they didn't want their quarterbacks to throw the ball 40 times a game. Maybe they were trying to avoid that. Maybe that's it. But it sure felt like that both these teams were trying to move the ball plus control the clock. They want to be able to control. Every team wants to do that. Besides, that's why I kind of like the Chargers right now because the Chargers don't really let's just go score. That's just kind of what the Chargers mentality is. Let's just go score. Let's just go get points, And I love that. Every other team, their first goal seems to be to run the clock, control the clock. And if you feel like you can do both, move the ball and control the clock, then they're going to go for it rather than just going the best route to score points. There is a way to control the clock and while passing the ball, though, so I think teams forget that. So this was pretty brutal play calling, honestly. It was a 3rd and long at one point, 3rd and 10 at midfield, and the Rams ran the ball, super confusing. They looked confused, but McVay was having an interaction with the offensive lineman on the sideline right after that, and they both looked confused. I know it's still early. It's just things that can't happen. That's my overall takeaway from this game. These are two teams that are supposed to be contenders. We expect to be contenders, and I'm not one to overreact from one game or decide, my prediction on a team from one game, and I'm not going to do that. But again, we expect these teams, a team like the Rams for sure to be a contender, and a game like this is kind of going to stick in my head when I'm making those big. I got to split hairs between two great teams, perhaps down the line when I'm predicting. I'm not really going to trust. it's crazy, but I'm not really going to am I going to trust the Rams play calling, their execution? Stafford was pretty hot and cold. That interception was pretty bad. I don't know if that was meant to be thrown away. If it was, that's not even close to being thrown away. He's overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys, but then he clutches up at one point, even after hurting his finger, and he gets down the field, steady down the field, and clock happens. See, that's how you do it. You actually keep the ball inbounds. You're working down the field, getting Robert Woods, who had a great game, get him going, and that everything looked better. The play calling, Stafford, everything looked better at that point because you're able to do all of the above. So Stafford looked good in those moments, and being able, I talked about this when they traded for him. Like, he's a tough dude. He gets hurt and he plays through injuries, but sometimes he's not 100% in terms of his skill when he's hurt as the season goes on. So that's what I was worried about. People were kind of confused what I was saying for some reason with that, but it is kind of starting to show, and it's only been 5 weeks. Is this gonna catch up to him? And it does. He is a little inconsistent in terms of the underthrows, overthrows. Hurt his finger on his throwing hand, the same one that the thumb on that hand. He had surgery in the offseason, so it's like the same thing every year. It's actually might be starting a little earlier. So I do. There's not really too many big positives takeaways going forward from even the team that won this game for me. So, but everything was better in the second half. That's the positive. Like, the play calling got better. They were able to figure out how to run the clock and move the ball while passing. Stafford was clutching up with a messed up finger. Robert Woods had a pickup game, breakout game. Finally, Higbee looked great. That drive he scored. There's positives within this game for sure, but that drive where he scored on Jamal Adams. Play before, he had a dominant block on Jordan Brooks. It's a linebacker, that's supposed to be very good at stopping the run. So it was just one-on-one. So that was back-to-back plays for Tyler Higbee. So that was impressive to me. Offensive line felt like Stafford had all day for the most part, and that was why the passing game was working. The weapons in general, too. Yeah, Darrell Henderson, he ran pretty well. He got hurt. I don't think he was 100% from his last injury from last week. And he was able to come in and run pretty hard, look pretty good. So there's positives within this game. They got talented players. The Rams have one of the most talented teams in football. We know Darius Williams got hurt. Robert Rochelle, rookies, like a raw prospect, upside guy, athletic traits guy. So it wouldn't be a surprise if he struggled right off the bat, and he did a bit there. That's nothing to panic about. Well, I guess if they got some injuries in the secondary, I guess that's something to be worried about going forward. In Stafford, how will he be 100%? Is he 100%? I don't think he was 100% in this game, most of this game. I really don't. So will he be going forward? Tough dude that can play through it and gives you best opportunity, but you need him to be 100% to go where you want to go, and that's more than just winning a Thursday night game against a struggling team in Week 5. There's a lot more that the Rams want to do but that. So that's kind of my look on this. But yeah, reason why the first half play calling, why the play calling's been weird, because McVay is known as a good play caller, very good system. It's because it is a big change. It's not the same system as a Jared Goff Rams offense. It's not, and that's kind of McVay's playbook. That's his baby. That's his system, and he went away from that a little bit. And I would almost like, I don't know if you really needed to change. I mean, their offense looks good overall, so it's hard to say they shouldn't be doing what they're doing right now. But I will say McVay, I'm pretty damn confident with this, pretty firm on this, that I think he is struggling with the play calling because this is not really his system. Maybe it's going to get better with time because he's kind of getting used to it. There was a lot more play action with Jared Goff, and that made the runs made sense then. When he randomly ran the ball, McVay dialed up a run. It made sense because it's a play action pass, roll out, is he running? Where is he running? We got to make sure to contain that, bootleg, and now it's just like, then my quarterback drops straight back, and then we're going to run straight up the middle, and then we're going to drop him straight back, and it's like, so it's actually more of a basic offense. It's crazy because there's more explosive plays. It's because the arm talent, your quarterback, and your weapons, but it is more of a basic and easier to game plan for, but you should be able to pass all over a Seahawks defense. They're in their base defense a ton. The Rams spread it out with multiple talented receivers. So they really should be, they should have been passing more in the first half, and the Rams would have dominated this game. They would have dominated this game. So maybe we'll chalk it up to McVay still kind of getting used to his new system here, a little bit of a change. But I always wonder, I was wondering in the first half, what if the Rams just ran the same exact offenses? Would they like pretend Goff is the quarterback, run the same exact offense? Because you were really good with Goff, you were making the playoffs, you went to a Super Bowl, run the same exact offense, but with a better quarterback. Unless they don't think Stafford could do it, maybe. But I would think that would make a lot more sense. I mix it up maybe a little bit. I don't know, but overall, for the stretch of this early season, offense has worked. Play calling could use a little fixing. I'm just hoping Stafford's good 100% for the whole season here. That's what you start to worry about as it's only week 5. And then Russell Wilson hurt his finger. That's pretty nasty. I thought it was dislocation. It's kind of like the opposite of that. It just gets stuck in the kind of the forward position there. I don't really know, but and they're going to do an MRI, and that apparently that's pretty damn painful, and it could require more. So he could be out. It's something he probably can play with, but I don't know if he'll be 100%. We saw it didn't really when he tried to play on it, he definitely wasn't playing right. And Gino Smith ended up looking better than Russell Wilson. Not that that's even close. But that kind of ended up being the case. Wilson was kind of, he made escape, make a ridiculous throw to DK or downfield, or created a pass interference, throwing the ball down the field. We see the normal Russell Wilson things. He had, even the last couple of years, he has taken some bad sacks. He took probably the worst one I've ever seen him take in this game. It was pretty bad. And he barely missed some throws, so he was kind of all over the place. And then, part of part of the negative play was after he hurt his finger too. So legitimate excuse there. I'm just worried about it. That might actually be more serious injury than it's not just popping it back in place. It's actually more serious. It sounds like there. So, the good news is that Gino Smith's a pretty good backup. I always thought that he kind of just got stuck on a team with a very healthy quarterback where he couldn't really showcase what he has. But he able to show us a little bit. Looked pretty solid last night. DK was all over the place. Other receivers played well, is where Lockett mainly. But, Metcalf was beating up Ramsey. Metcalf got the best of Jalen Ramsey last night, that's for sure. Play calling, again, we kind of talked. It was brutal. I think it's kind of your typical Seahawks stuff, though. But they're trying to control the clock at the same time moving the ball. But when you're able to move the ball in a pass game, you just keep doing that. Just keep doing that. So, maybe they didn't want to have Russell Wilson end up throwing the ball 40-plus times. I don't know. It'd be weird that's what they were trying to avoid. It's either that or they just really wanted to control the clock, and I think it was more trying to control the clock while moving the ball because a lot of teams want to do that, but you end up only scoring 17 points. You only scored 7 points at Russell Wilson, so play calling was real bad. Some of those short yards decisions, very bad. The 4th and 2 was very bad, so it didn't make a lot of sense. Their timeout management at the end of the first half was pretty terrible as well. They could have Jason Myers ended up missing a 35-yarder, which is a fluke. I don't really put that. It's not really the coach's fault, but they could have had more time to run more plays. They used their timeouts a little better. Pass rush, Darrell Taylor got a nice sack, and that was it. So pass rush was non-existent. Stafford pretty much had all day. He seemed to be, if there was any sort of, even if the pass rusher or a defensive lineman didn't beat the offensive lineman they're matched up against, they were just kind of collapsing the pocket slightly. Stafford in the second half, I think after his finger, he started to kind of get the happy feet a little bit. So and maybe because, he was worried about getting hit again. It makes sense. And the Seahawks just needed to get something going, and they couldn't get anything. So that's a problem. We knew that going into the season. The pass rush wasn't there. We knew the secondary wasn't there. Jamal Adams let's go back to last year. Jamal Adams, every fan base pretty much besides the Seahawks is ripping Jamal Adams, and I wasn't part of that. I think the main thing they were ripping about was because he's getting sacks. He's playing a different type of safety role, and you're not going to find me ripping a guy for playing good football just in a different way. And he did have injuries last year, so we didn't see a whole lot of him. Legitimate excuse. So I was still with all for Jamal Adams. He's been playing bad this year. I'm getting on him for this year. I don't know what's going on. We're just not. There's no impact plays from him. He's been awful in coverage, whether it's zone or man. And we know he's not a huge coverage guy, so he's got to make plays around the box in the backfield. But my problem is he was a very good coverage guy as a prospect and with the Jets. He was. I liked him a lot in coverage. So that's confusing, like how different he is. But he's not making those big plays around the box, along the sideline, at least somewhat down the field. He's not making any of those plays, so I don't know. I don't know what's happening right now. But yeah, he was pretty bad in coverage. Desean Jackson only had that one catch, if I'm not mistaken. That was big time momentum changer. That kind of got the Rams going. That maybe was the play of the game. Stafford kind of I'm just going to throw it up. That's kind of what that was. And Adams had his head turned. He's the safety. He was deep in coverage. He's further back than Desean Jackson, and he's got his head turned heading upfield, which should never happen for a safety in coverage. So then he gets beat by Higbee, but I was more worried about the Desean Jackson one. So that was he's had a rough go. He's even with tackling, last couple of weeks, just seeing him kind of put his head down and whiff. I think he hit his own teammate in this game too, put his head down, whiff. Near sideline, you just got to push the guy out, and he kind of just barely hits him. The guy ends up getting extra yards. So all around his entire game, it's not looking good. It's still early, still kind of time to figure out his role in this defense. They gave him a big contract for a reason, though. Let's see it. Let's see it. So there's a lot of things to worry about in this game. I'm worrying too much about some of these players, but I think it's because we expect both these teams to be great. We expect both these teams to be legit contenders, definitely playoff teams. Seahawks, I'm a little worried about in that category with the Russell Wilson injury. But even if he's hurt and going to miss some games, we might look back and say, well, that was the reason they didn't make it. It probably will be. But at the same time, were they playing good as it was? No, they weren't. They were not. This is probably the worst we've seen the Seahawks play. I know they gave up a lot of yards early last year and they struggled to score late last year, but at least the other side of the ball was playing well and being consistent. Like the offense looks good here and there, and then it's non-existent here. The defense overall is just bad. They're on pace for a record. One more game with 450 yards allowed, something like that is that's an NFL record for most consecutive games allowing that many yards. So that's not ideal. I know it's a high-powered passing era, but so you expect maybe those records to come now, but it's not ideal. And some people were kind of wondering, well, they can have the good offense and bad defense like they did early last year. They can have the bad offense and the good defense like they did late last year, and it's like a mixture of both, but mainly the bad side. The offense has been moving the ball, but they got to execute for the whole game, and they got to score more than 17 this game. I know Russell Wilson went down, but they had 7 with him, so I don't know. It's a lot of negativity from this game. It felt like I was watching a Lions-Jags Thursday night game. Luckily it's only week 5, so we'll see what happens here. Just got to get out there with a win, I suppose. So the Rams, it's still positive here for them, and they have some winnable games coming up too. But can't take anybody lightly there. That's gonna wrap it up for my takeaways for the Week 5 Thursday night football game, which was a very very weird one. But we're back every Friday with this video. On Mondays, we got Sunday recap. And, we got all kinds of predictions, rankings, and more. So join us for all that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Thanks for watching this video. Goodbye.